This video will restart with the adrenal gland. So in terms of the adrenal gland, there are two of them on top of the kidneys, and they are retroperitoneal, that is, they are posterior to the peritoneum. There is adrenal capsule, and there are two parts of the adrenal gland, the outer cortex, which is yellowish because it stores lipids, especially cholesterol, and then the inner part is the medulla. The outer cortex produces the steroid hormones. Together they are called the corticosteroids, and these affect metabolism of target cells and are vital to staying alive. The medulla, the inner portion, produces epinephrine and norepinephrine. The adrenal cortex has several different layers, so if you look at this picture here, you will see the adrenal capsule, and then this whole dotted section is the adrenal cortex, and then you can see the inner adrenal medulla. So the outer cortex has three areas. The outermost area is the zona glomerulosa, and that secretes mineral corticoids. And the only one we're interested in is aldosterone. And aldosterone will increase renal absorption of sodium. And water follows salt, so water will be absorbed as well. It also secretes potassium from the kidneys. Release of the aldosterone is stimulated by decreased blood pressure and decreased volume. This means that more water must be retained, and in order to retain more water in the kidneys retain more salt. The water follows the salt and is retained. This is a whole system called the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, and it is inhibited by hormones opposing that system. The second layer is the zona fasciculata, and that secretes glucocorticoids. Think mostly of cortisol. And then the liver will convert some of that cortisol to cortisone. You've probably used cortisone or hydrocortisone on bug bites. Secretion of the glucocorticoids is stimulated by ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, from the anterior pituitary. The third layer, we're still on the zona fasciculata, the middle layer. And what these glucocorticoids do is affect glucose metabolism. So there's a huge effect. It increases the rate of liver glucose and glycogen formation, stimulates the release of amino acids from muscles. It stimulates release of lipids and promotes the breakdown of lipids. Cortisol also has that anti-inflammatory effect, which is why you put hydrocortisone on bug bites. It prevents the itching. And then the innermost layer, the zona reticularis, secretes small quantities of androgens. Androgens are male hormones, but they can be converted to female hormones. And in an adult, there's not much effect, but as we grow older, you'll see effects of these hormones. And also these hormones are important in stimulating the development of pubic hair before puberty in both males and females. The innermost adrenal medulla secretes epinephrine and norepinephrine, and these are hormones of the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, so everything's going to increase. Increase heart rate, increase breathing, increase blood pressure, and increase breakdown of glycogen and sugar. The pancreas secretes two important hormones, insulin and glucagon, and they have opposite effects. And in terms of the anatomy, most of the pancreas is retroperitoneal. It's kind of in the curve of the stomach. So the pancreas is the only organ that is both exocrine and endocrine. The exocrine function of the pancreas is 99% of the volume. And these cells secrete digestive enzymes. Those digestive enzymes will pass through the pancreatic ducts and into the small intestine. The endocrine function that we're interested in here is a group of cells called the pancreatic islets, or islets of Langerhans, and there are about 2 million islets in a typical pancreas. So the pancreatic islets contain different cells, and you can see by this picture we've got alpha cells, beta cells, pancreatic acini, and delta cells, polypeptide cells, and so on. But what we're concerned with is the alpha cells, number one. They're going to produce glucagon, and glucagon will increase blood glucose levels. Well, where is it going to get the blood glucose? It's going to break down glycogen in the liver, and that's going to increase blood glucose. The beta cells produce insulin, and those lower blood glucose. So they're going to, it's kind of like a signal to the cells to use the glucose. So they increase glucose uptake and use by cells, but also will increase the formation of glycogen in the liver and skeletal cells. The delta cells produce a peptide hormone identical to growth hormone inhibiting hormone. So it suppresses the release of both glucagon and insulin and slows the rate of food absorption. The pancreatic polypeptide cells inhibit gallbladder contraction. The gallbladder is going to contract when you have fatty foods in your diet, and once those fatty foods leave the stomach and hit the small intestine, it's going to cause the gallbladder to contract and release bile, which will help break down those fats. So in this chapter, glucose homeostasis is of interest as well as concern, because a lot of Americans have a bit of a problem with glucose homeostasis. Insulin and glucagon are the main hormones that control our glucose levels, and they have opposing effects. So as the blood glucose rises, so you eat your Snickers bar, the levels of glucose in the blood quickly go up. The beta cells secrete insulin, and the insulin is going to allow the cells to take up the glucose. As the blood glucose declines, so you ate your Snickers bar for breakfast, and you've gone to class, and it's 4.5 hours later, and you didn't come prepared, you didn't bring any food or coffee to keep you awake. And so as your blood glucose levels decline, the alpha cells will secrete glucagon, and that will break down the glycogen in the liver. The pineal gland of the epithalamus secretes melatonin, which affects the circadian rhythm. That's about all you need to know. And that melatonin is produced from serotonin. And that's really about it. Well, the rates are low during the day and high at night. So melatonin sets our circadian rhythm, which is our day-night cycle, inhibit reproduction functions, and protect against damage by free radicals. Free radicals are just compounds that basically steal electrons from other molecules. It's important to understand diabetes mellitus. In diabetes mellitus, the glucose levels are very high, and it results in hyperglycemia. It results in glycosuria, which is glucose in the urine, polyuria, which is excessive urine formation. And it may be, well, type 1 is genetic. And in type 1, insulin is not produced at all. It's an autoimmune disease. And these are it's usually called juvenile, well, maybe not so anymore, but it's often called juvenile diabetes. Younger adults will get it, up to age 21, and this requires insulin injections. Type 2 is what's the problem in America. A lot of Americans have type 2 diabetes, and it's becoming a problem throughout the world. In this case, the body does produce insulin, but the tissues don't respond to it. So the cells are not taking up the insulin, and it's called insulin resistance. And this is often associated with obesity. So if anyone you know is diagnosed with type 2, it doesn't mean you automatically go on medication. If you diet and exercise for 6 weeks, you might alter that diagnosis completely. About 25.8 million people in the U.S. have some form of diabetes. If untreated, it causes problems throughout the body. Without insulin, or the insulin receptors that allow insulin to attach to the cells to let the glucose in, the cells do not get the glucose. And so the tissues are not getting the glucose they need, so they're acting as if in starvation. And so lipids and proteins are broken down as alternative energy sources. And it also causes abnormal changes in the structure of the blood vessels. So this can result in diabetic retinopathy, partial or complete blindness because of the damage to the capillaries of the retina. It can result in increased heart attack risk and blockages due to changes in circulation. So it would cause damage in portions of the limbs, your toes, your feet. And diabetic nephropathy, nephro is kidney, apathy is disease of, degenerative changes in the kidney that can lead to kidney failure. Diabetic neuropathy, abnormal blood flow to neural tissues causes damage, reduction in blood flow, tissue death, and loss of feet or limbs. So you need to be able to define diabetes mellitus and describe the two types, type 1, which is in younger people, type 2, which is related to obesity, and know the problems associated with diabetes.